good. Right on time. Yep. She did, yeah. We're live. All right, we'll see if this comes across loud and clear. Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. I need to get closer. Okay, thanks. Welcome to this Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is over to my left. Okay. Let me remind commissioners, please make sure your microphone is lighted green when you speak, and speak into the microphone so that we can get a record and also so that everyone can hear. We'll call roll. Commissioner Wiggins?
Present.
Oh, that's loud and clear. Maybe I'll pull this a little closer. Commissioner Bowie?
Here.
Commissioner Ackland?
Present.
Commissioner Pfizer?
Present.
Commissioner Peterman?
Present.
Commissioner Urquia?
Present.
Commissioner Manser?
Present.
Hope I'm pronouncing that so close. Thank you. And Mayor Turnbow?
Here.
And Commissioner Faulkner is present. We have a quorum. We actually have the full commission, and thank you very much for that. Nothing this evening under personal appearances. There are 3 items under consent agenda, which include the approval of minutes from our February 18th, 2020 meeting, which is the last one we held, actually. Case 20006, Brookside 10th, replat of tracts X and Y. Case 20007, Eastbrook at Creekmore first plat, final plat. And I would either entertain a motion to accept consent agenda or split those out into 3 separate items, or if anyone wants to discuss or comment on them, they need to be moved off of consent agenda. So as you wish, commissioners, do I hear a motion to accept consent agenda?
So moved.
Was that Commissioner Urquia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Ackland. Okay, give me a second here. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's unanimous. 9 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. And nothing under unfinished business this evening. So that will take us right into our new business. And I apologize, I feel a little clumsy here this evening. Our first case under new business this evening, case 20003, the Foxwood Springs tract rezoning. This case will require a public hearing, and if the applicant is present this evening, would you like to come forward to the podium and present your case?
You want to go give your overview? It's your call. It'll be up to the chair.
We got a
Chair.
mic?
Chairman, do you want me to give the staff report or a staff overview first?
I may be forgetting, but it seems like our customary order is applicant first, then staff. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's do
Great.
it that way.
My name is Will Knowlton. I'm from Hush Blackwell. I represent the owner of Foxwood Springs. It's really pretty simple what we're trying to do. I don't know if if you have the documents in front of you, the staff report showing what we're attempting to do. It's Foxwood Springs owns, in addition to the homes and the retirement homes, an agriculturally zoned tract immediately adjacent just to the north. Sitting on that tract just to the north is a maintenance building which serves the homes. This is really just to clean up the zoning. Currently, that maintenance shed is zoned agricultural. What we're seeking to do through this rezoning and an administrative lot line adjustment will be to bring the zoning of the maintenance building in line with the rest of the property as well. Staff has recommended approval. I don't know if Katie has anything to add.
Well, we will get a staff report
Okay.
from her in a minute. so-
But I'll welcome any questions you have at this time, I guess.
Any questions for the applicant? Normally we let you sit down and then we run you back and forth, but this is not time for questions from the public. I saw a hand behind you, but there will be a public hearing on this case in a minute, and we'll open the floor to the public then. Okay, thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Knowlton. All right, Mr. Odo, if you'd give us the staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Will said, this is Hush Blackwell requesting to reclassify about 4 acres from an agricultural district to planned unit development. As you can see in your staff report, it is a small portion of a larger agricultural tract that they own to the north. It goes right behind about 3 homes and then encompasses the maintenance building that serves Foxwood Springs. Right now, the building is used to house maintenance equipment as well as, I believe it's kind of a thrift store. People can sell their older items there if they no longer need them. So the building is being used today, and they would like to bring it into the PUD zoning that the rest of the development is under. They are not rezoning the entire agricultural area. Again, it's just the 4 acres that surround where this maintenance building is, and then a little bit of a strip that goes behind houses to keep it consistent with the overall zoning. So as I stated, Foxwood Springs is a PUDE. There's then residential to the northwest, and then there is residential and commercial to the west and residential and commercial to the east. There was a public or a good neighbor meeting that was held back in March 11th, and those comments and the questions of the neighbors that came who live in Harold Estates are presented in your packet as well. Overall, staff recommends that you accept the proposed findings of facts and forward case number 20003, a rezoning of 4 acres to the north of Foxwood Springs from A agricultural district to PUD planned unit development to the city council with a recommendation of approval. I'm available for any questions.
No, thank you. Any questions for staff before I open the public hearing? All right. Okay, before I open the public hearing, it's been a while since we did this. Anyone from the public will be given an opportunity to speak on this case. Once I open the public hearing, if you choose to speak, please come forward to the podium. Again, make sure the microphone is on, green light, and speak into the microphone so we can capture it for the record. I doubt that it would be a problem with the turnout this evening, but we always ask that you keep your comments to, let's say, no more than 5 minutes. And if you are speaking after someone else and in agreement with the position that's already been stated, if you'd simply acknowledge that rather than restating the position, we'd appreciate that just to keep proceedings going. So if you come forward to speak, please give us your name and address for the record. And you know, what I don't have this evening is a gavel, but I think we can probably do it with a fist bump. So I will open the public hearing on case 20003, Foxwood Springs Tract rezoning. Would anyone from the public like to speak on this case?
Sir, I forgot to read into the record the exhibits. Could I do that prior
Yep.
to the public hearing?
Yes, you may, and on the public hearing, you'll need to come forward to the podium or we won't be able to hear you, but give us a second, we'll catch the minutes, or the,
Can you speak loud because we cannot hear you? We can hear the lady, but we cannot hear you.
oh, sorry. All right, I'll have to stay right on the microphone. Thank you for that. Mr. Odo.
So I apologize, but I need to read in the items of record. Exhibit 1, the mailed notices to adjoining property owners. Exhibit 2, notice of publication. Exhibit 3, the Unified Development Code. Exhibit 4, the application. Exhibit 5, the growth management plan. Exhibit 6, the staff report. And Exhibit 7, the applicant's conceptual site plan, which is also included in your packet.
I know that's in here somewhere. Thank you very much. Okay, actually, the public hearing is open. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Davis, and Lewis and I live in Herald Estates. Our address is 507 Winslow Drive. We would be one of the properties that would be impacted by the change to the zoning. And I'd like to address two of the things that I think are going on. One of which, I used to be a resident in Foxwood Springs. I moved out of there 2 years ago into a private dwelling on Herald Estates. And I know that the Foxwood Springs property is available currently on the market through the Brookdale ownership for sale. I have a very long history with that property. My aunt and uncle, the Keller family, as well as 3 other family members, were a part of an original ownership through the Disciples of Christ Church, which inherited that property through their church. Years and decades ago, those gentlemen put together a program to sell homes independent, as well as to develop an Alzheimer's program. During those decades, there were honoring of those original agreements, which does include this 4 acres. Those acres and others that have been established separate to what is commonly called Foxwood Springs was done so by an agreement with the original people who donated that property to Foxwood Springs to keep it as an agricultural land, as well as to develop it into a park setting. Foxwood Springs owned it for several decades until, as you guys I'm sure are aware of, poor management and pilfering of previous management stole millions of dollars from the Foxwood property, and it was put onto the market for sale, and Brookdale bought it. During those years that Brookdale's had it, which is probably a decade, give or take 9 years or 12 years, Brookdale has had that property, and they inherited some of the aging issues to the property. I'm aware that Brookdale now is trying to sell that property, and they have not had any success in selling it. There has been another interested party who did come forward, and they walked away from the deal, and in part, they did that because of this zoning concern. I'm not interested in seeing that property, one, be rezoned, because I honor the original agreement that was made decades ago for the establishment of an Alzheimer's unit, independent living, as well as assisted living, and a park-like setting. I'm aware that Foxwood is a major contributor to the tax base to Raymore, and that there would be a motivator to change this PUD over in this agricultural zoning to create more of an encompassed 4.5 acres, but those acres are going to bump right up against my house. I know that Brookdale is wanting to attract a buyer who could come forward and buy this property with the hope of doing further expansion. Right now, that little property that's sitting there with that, quote, maintenance place, as well as the little place where people go and buy and sell items, that little place that is there generates probably anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 a year. And that little place is designed to feed into an organization called the Disciples of Christ and the Fellowship of John. It helps aging people who have aged out of their finances to receive reimbursement of sorts. It's not a lot, but it helps these families who are in a financial strait. The little place that is used as their sales shop, which is on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of any given week once the COVID is over, are items that as other people have aged out in the community and have moved from independent dwelling into assisted living, they get rid of their household stuff. When people pass, who are now living in the assisted living and move into the Foxwood Springs Alzheimer's units, those people can't take their items with them. And so all those items are then donated to this little building where they are sold, and that whole little enterprise is run as a nonprofit organization, feeding money back into the Fellowship of John for the purpose of helping aging people who are in financial concerns. If you agree to change this zoning for these 4 acres, then I have a question about what are you going to do about the other property that, quote, is in the agricultural zoning. It also is going to impact my property values. And it also is going to help Brookdale, who is serving themselves at the moment with their desire to increase parking space. They're stuck because they are landlocked on their front end going to 58, and on the other sides, they can't scoot out any further to increase additional parking for a potential expansion. If they get this change to their zoning, then their intention, as I've been told, is going to be to open up that, to create another building, to do some other additional improvements, and that will enhance their overall package to either sell to somebody who has a vision for those extra acres or for Brookdale to make it a more profitable program. I am vehemently against having this zoning go through as a change.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm actually not wearing a watch this evening, but it looks like it's been about 5 minutes on the computer. So thank you very much for the comments.
Thank you.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak on case 20003, Foxwood Springs tract rezoning?
I don't care. Go ahead. Have at it. I'm over it. Good evening. My name is Robert Schmidt. I live at 1912 Harold Drive in Harold Estates. In fact, I developed that subdivision about 19 years ago. I'm representing my parents, Rudolph and Mary Schmidt. They live at 505 Winslow Drive, and they immediately back up to the property in question. My real question and concern is right now there's a natural barrier between the subdivision, a residential subdivision, and a commercial establishment. And if you follow typical planning and zoning guidelines, there's barriers that are designed into this for purposes. The question is, if you rezone that to a PUD, what restrictions are placed upon them in terms of the type of construction that they can propose? Are you talking about single family? Are you talking about parking structures? Are you talking about multifamily, multi-level facilities? I think that's the real concern and the real issue with the residents. What are you going to allow them to develop? Once they get the zoning, in another year or two, they come back with construction plans. What are the restrictions that are going to be put forth on that? So that's the question I think that at least myself and my parents would like to know, because, you know, there was rumors early on that there was going to be multi-story facilities potentially built there. That's just not a good mix, backing up to acreage tracts that people have invested a substantial amount of money. So they get the zoning. What are the restrictions? I don't think there are any I'm not sure what this board or this commission can restrict them from down the road. So that's the question that we'd like to have answered tonight. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ron Grant, I'm 503 Winslow Drive, next door to Rudy Schmidt. My property as well backs up, and in the wintertime I can see what remains of a garden, but right now it's all covered up. So I have a concern about any potential barrier removals at some point. I did have an occasion to talk to the land surveyors that came out. Nobody ever came and asked me, they just went out, but I understand that there's a utility easement back there, fair game. They came out, started laying all sorts of markers and flags down. And when I had the opportunity, I caught up with two of them, which they really didn't want to talk, but I did catch them at their vehicle and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you. What's going on back here? I was told, now this is just an employee of the surveyor who said, oh, we're here to lay out the new road and the new sewer. I said, okay, who hired you? And this is already in the record. I came to the public hearing, or the Good Neighbor hearing. I was clearly told the city had hired them. I've since contacted the management, an individual who I happen to know, and asked them who provided these services. He refused to tell me. He said it's confidential. I'd like to know, for one, has the city been involved in this besides just a private landowner coming and saying, I want to change this? And if there is a road going back there, I think I've already had a talk with the attorney who said, oh no, that's not part of this deal. But I'm also concerned in the future, if you look at if they develop that bigger piece, they're going to want access to Kentucky. And there's a road going in there, and there's some development happening in that field. And it's a natural line straight in. And I'd like to know if this change is forthcoming, what are the restrictions going to be? Am I going to be faced with a major thoroughfare coming right behind my property, which will have a direct effect, very detrimental effect to my property? Right now, I have a nice yard, pretty trees. And if that goes away, it'd be a sad day for me. And I'd like this planning board to consider that about how this was going to be handled. If this is a bigger game, is this just one move in a chess game? And there's going to be the next move a couple years from now. Had my piece. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on case 20003 this evening? And seeing none, I'll make the best fake out that I can on a gavel and close the public hearing. And give us 1 second. So, Ms. Yardot, since this is your case, I'm going to give you first shot at answering the questions that were raised during the public hearing, and feel free to call on any other parties to assist you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll let Will address what they intend to do with the property, but in terms of addressing the surveyor, I believe it was Anderson Survey. We did hire them because we're making upgrades to the sewer system. There's a lift station there. So we did hire them, the city did, to determine where that was going to go exactly. It just happened to also be who the Hush Blackwell hired to do the survey for which portion they wanted to rezone as well. In terms of a road going behind there, the portion where The little portion behind those houses is about 40 feet, but it abuts a property, another property, so it doesn't extend, it doesn't connect to the road to allow access to this property. It stops. So there isn't a way for a road to serve a purpose if it was built behind here, in the city's opinion. So we don't have plans for a road. We do have plans to extend the sewer and make adjustments for the lift station, but there are no plans for a road because it wouldn't go anywhere. And then I'll let Will, I guess, speak to the future development. I guess one more question I think was about what could be done with the PUD zoning. The PUD zoning would have the same restrictions that the rest of Foxwood Springs has, so it would need to be that 4 acres. They would need to come back and show us a plan, a site plan, and it would need to match what is currently at Foxwood. So some of that is some single family that I think people can own, and Foxwood owns some as well. I don't know that the property is big enough to have a multi-story, but that would be for them to decide. But the rest of the property, the additional acreage that's still going to remain agriculture, if they wanted to develop that in the future, they would need to come back and have that portion rezoned as well, which would result in another public hearing and another good neighbor meeting as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps, and then I'll let Will speak to the future.
Yeah, if I can ask you one quick question. So, I've kind of lost. And speak well, yeah, I know, that's a little tough to do. So, immediately to the west of Foxwood Springs, there's a tract currently in yellow that is also behind the homes on the south end of Harold Estates. I just wanted to confirm that there's no action being taken on that tract, which of necessity would be a connection to Kentucky Road if that were ever to take place. Is that correct? I'm on page 2 of the staff report, top.
Could there be any development that we would be discussing tonight if it's not even a part of the track we're currently looking at? Or are you just concerned that
Well,
there's some other plan? Because I don't think we've considered anything on that.
So I'm picking up on the question about making a connection from Foxwood Springs to Kentucky Road, and simply wanting to confirm that that could not be done based on any action tonight, because we're not dealing with that tract in yellow that's behind the commercial there.
And if I
Correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Well,
Commissioner Wiggins.
in addition, I was just going to say that one of the things that did come when we discussed the Kentucky Road relocation project, one of the things that came about was the discussion that Foxwood Springs, because as we have plans to develop that area, or a developer has plans to develop that area to the west, that Foxwood Springs has said that those are private roads and they will not be connecting. And that was something that was brought up at our meetings too. So as a reminder, they will not allow the city to connect to their roads there because they don't want traffic through. So they won't allow it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. The floor is actually open for discussion by the commission or staff, and I guess actually, I apologize, Ms. Jardot, did you want Mr. Nolte to speak on this?
If he just wanted to speak about the overall plans
Yeah.
for that 4 acres to address those questions.
Simply in response to the questions that haven't been answered. Please, sir.
Thanks, Kathy, Robert, and Ron. I think Katie did a good job addressing Ron's question, so I'll just address Kathy and Robert and their concerns about future development. And as Katie said, in practice, nothing is really changing here. It's just to really clean things up so that we can adjust the lot line to bring the maintenance shed along with the rest of the developed property. The agricultural property to the north will not change. If there ever were to be a rezoning there, it would have to come before this body once again. The public would be informed, and they would have the chance at that time to speak up against any other change. As Katie said, there will be all the same restrictions in that very small area that we are rezoning as there is for the rest of Foxwood Springs. Anything beyond that would require further approval from the city. So I would be interested in talking to you, Kathy, and Robert afterwards. I'm particularly interested in the agreements and the intentions that the disciples of Christ had originally. But that's all I have now. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Jardot, one little detail, I apologize, missed it earlier, but before the case would go to City Council, right at the beginning of the case, I think the correct spelling is N-U-L-T-E, but he's listed as...
Commissioner, can you speak? I can't understand what you're saying.
Sorry. I think Mr. Nulte's name is correctly spelled. Okay, well, yeah. N-U-L-T-O-N. Oh, it is N-U-L-T-O-N. Okay, so we just need to make that consistent through the case. It's spelled two ways, and you're one person, so I think I just figured that out this evening. All right, my apologies for not staying on the mic. I will try to do better, and Commissioner Wiggins he'll keep on me. All right, so continuing discussion on the case by the commission. Do any of the other commissioners have questions, comments? Mayor Turnbow.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Knowlton, is there any intent for future development of that property as we change the zoning? If we change the zoning tonight to PUD, does the present owner have any intention to make any improvements on that property?
No, none at all that I'm aware of.
And did they disclose to you at all the purpose for rezoning?
They, and it's no secret, Kathy addressed it, they have contemplated selling. There's currently no agreement or no negotiations to sell. But the maintenance building serves the rest of the developed property. So together with the administrative lot line adjustment, this would allow the zoning to all match so that it would be consistent for that purpose.
And how does did they disclose at all how it enhances the value of the potential sale of the property?
I'm not sure specifically. I think the way the property is being used currently is more appropriate in the PUD zoning along with the rest of the other property.
So it's not their intent to change the purpose of the building that's being used now as a thrift store, maintenance shed?
No.
But I think it's probably safe to assume that it does enhance the value, and it makes it makes it the property more sellable. So I mean that's pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm. And that's Commissioner Bowie for the record.
Okay. No, ma'am, I'm sorry, the meeting's closed. The public hearing part is closed.
No.
Your public hearing part, the meeting's not over. Public hearing part is over, so you can't. Nope.
All right.
Was the public hearing
Thank you.
closed?
Commissioner Wiggins.
Just to confirm, so if anything were to potentially change even if it was moved to a PUD, let's say they wanted to add parking structure or they wanted to add an addition to the building. I mean, an addition to the building wouldn't necessarily come before us, but let's say they wanted to raise it and build, multi-family housing, multi-story, or even a parking garage, that would come before planning and zoning, and we would have to approve that, and then council would have to approve it twice. So hearing today from the attorneys that there is no intent to make anything, and if they're hiding that from us and it comes before us again, well, we know that they said there is no intent for making change, and so we have the ability to strike it down, and they can then not move forward with any additional changes or development if we make the change to PUD, because they have to come back to us, right?
That's correct. As the lot line is right now, they can sell, it would allow them to sell Foxwood Springs separately from all the agricultural land, including the maintenance building, which then has created a maintenance building with no one to serve because they are no longer together. Adjusting the lot line allows them to sell, instead of selling all of the agricultural land, simply the part where the building is, which is this 4 acres, and they retain whatever they want.
And so that brings me to my question is, who owns the rest of that agricultural land? That's to the north of Foxwood
And
Springs.
that's Commissioner Arkia for the record.
It's called American Retirement Corporation, which is who also owns Foxwood Springs.
Okay,
But it allows them to separate.
I understand that.
Okay.
So, and on that note, can they separate the 4 acres, leaving it as agricultural, or do they have to rezone it PUD to clump it together with Foxwood Springs?
It needs to be rezoned because they couldn't separate out that agriculture. It wouldn't meet our agricultural district standards. It would be too small.
Okay, and then on that note, what is the, and I don't know if you need, does anybody have questions for him? Because I don't want to make him stand there while I'm asking these, I'm sorry. Okay. Then, do we know what our, call it long-term plan, is it to leave that land agricultural? Is it to eventually develop it? What is kind of the long-term goal of that area?
Sorry, I actually think he would be better to address that. I don't know what their long-term plans are for the agricultural leftover.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Zerd, do we need to let you into the middle of this discussion?
I'll let him answer.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm aware of no plans for that agriculturally zoned land right now. As I've mentioned before, though, any development would require city approval.
No, and I understand that. I was just curious. You have obviously the Foxwood Springs, community, and then you have that 4 acres that I understand you want to clump together because the maintenance building's on there, so you want to be able to sell all of that together. What would be then the purpose of retaining the agricultural land and not just including it in the overall sell?
I really don't know. I've not been in on those conversations. I really don't know.
Okay, I was just curious if there was, like, no one wants the agricultural land, so that's why they're coming and asking for this, or if they were wanting to keep it for some other purpose. I just wasn't sure.
Right. I suppose, it's possible that could be sold as well, but there's no plans that I'm aware of to do so.
I'm going to venture my opinion based on having read this case back in February or March and having read it again, but it strikes me that the guts of the case is basically you have a maintenance facility which is not part of the main tract but provides maintenance equipment for the bulk of Foxwood Springs and also provides the store, and it would appear logically belongs as part of Foxwood Springs because that's its purpose is to support it.
Oh, yeah, I fully understand that. I just
Yeah.
was wanting to understand the whole picture.
Right.
Now I understand 4 acres isn't large enough to leave as agricultural, so it makes sense that they want to rezone it so they can clump it together.
Right.
I'm just piecing together the puzzles for myself, so I understand. And I was just curious if we knew what else might be on the horizon for the rest of the land and why not
Yeah.
sell it all together, but
I guess I would caution.
I understand now.
I would caution based on having lived in Raymore now probably 27 years, that, there's absolutely nothing that I can see that's ever completely cast in concrete. Zoning is pretty strict. It's fairly hard to change, but we've certainly changed zonings over time, and other things less than zoning. It's good to have an intent, it's good to have an understanding, but I think it's dangerous to think that that's never going to change. So
And
a
I'm
lot of
not-
our discussion this evening.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking that at all. I was just curious if they had any knowledge of
Right.
current or near future intent,
Yeah.
just to kind of help me. I was just trying to understand why this 4 acres, and like I said, now I do.
Yeah.
And that's
okay.
all I was looking to try to clarify.
Fair enough. All right. Mr. Zur, I think it's about time we let you speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening with regard to this.
I think you need to stay on the mic, too.
I think you're probably correct.
Okay.
In discussions with staff, we were not sure or did not hear, and perhaps we just missed it, the closure of the actual public hearing on this matter. I don't know if that was formally done.
Without a gavel, I thumped my fist, so yes, the public hearing was officially closed.
Excellent. I believe Mr. Cataract clocked that at 7:25 this evening, and I just missed that on my side, and perhaps I should apologize for interrupting on that one.
No, that's a good question. Always better to ask.
Going back with regard to the application, I want to make sure and focus the commission's attention for it. With your rezoning, obviously, you're looking for the highest and best use of the property. Most importantly, in your review, applying the 11 factors that have been outlined for you in 470.020 under the Planning Commission findings of fact. You guys have been obviously asking great questions and pertinent to the application. I just want to make sure you stay focused with regard to those particular items. There was also one issue that came up during the course of the public hearing portion regarding the private contractual obligations between the original property owners. From legal's perspective, and I know that haven't been asked this question yet, but just anticipating it, with regard to private contractual obligations and agreements, that's not something that will limit the city with regard to a rezoning application. Any liabilities that might be associated with that between prior property owners, current property owners, or neighboring property owners is something that would need to be addressed by the property owners themselves, not something that necessarily is going to impact upon your decision this evening.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Zur. Well put. Okay. We're still open for discussion by the commission. Any other questions, comments? I need to stay on the mic, don't I?
I'll go ahead then and make a motion to approve the city staff recommendations and forward case number 20003, the rezoning of 4 acres to the north of Foxwood Springs from A agricultural district to PUD planned unit development to city council with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Arquilla. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and a second by Mayor Turnbow. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Arquilla, second by Mayor Turnbow, to accept staff proposed findings of fact on case 20003 and forward the case rezoning of 4 acres to the north of Foxwood Springs from A agricultural to PUD planned unit development. Forward that to City Council with recommendation of approval. How's that sound? Fair enough. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, raise a hand, please. I have 8 in favor. Any opposed? Commissioner Pfizer in opposition, and no abstentions. And Commissioner Pfizer, as is our custom, if you'd like to speak in any of the reason for your opposing the motion, please do.
Yeah, I think I'm just not convinced that there's a reason good enough. I understand the sort of joining it together as part of the sale. I think I'm just skeptical of what might happen to it in the future. Maybe that's not a good reason, but I just feel like, I don't know, I want more information about what's going to happen to it. So that's really it.
Thank you. All right, moving along, sorry, microphone. Moving along, our next case this evening under new business, case 20005. It's an alley vacation in Original Town, Block 8, and City of Raymore is the applicant on this case. So, Ms. Jardot, Mr. Cataret, as you wish, if you'd like to present the case to us, we're all ears.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Case 20005, this request is filed by the city requesting to vacate what is a 14-foot wide alley that runs north-south through Block 8 in the original plat of the city of Raymore. Block 8 is commonly referred to as our TV Hanna Station Park. This alley is unimproved, but there are utilities currently within the alley right-of-way. Alley vacations do require a public hearing, was advertised for this evening. Want to enter into the record the notice of publication in the Journal, our Unified Development Code, the application, our growth management plan, and the staff report. There were no neighbor notices sent because the alley vacation, the city entirely owns all the property on either side of the vacation. I want to note all of the blocks within the original town do have a north-south alley. There has been one alley that was vacated. It's actually directly to the north of this property. When First Baptist Church expanded their building, they had to vacate the alley within that city block. I also note, and included in your packet, is the site plan that was approved for TV Hanna Station, which did anticipate the vacation of the alley at that time. What we're trying to prevent is, even though it's unimproved, the general public today has the right to travel vehiculars, or pedestrian on the right-of-way, and we simply want to remove that as a legal right. We will maintain the easement over the alleyway because KCP&L have overhead lines as well as other utilities within the right-of-way. The engineering division did look at their request. They recommend approval of the request. We did submit findings of fact for your consideration on the alley vacation, and we do recommend that the commission accept those proposed findings of fact and forward this case, the requested alley right-of-way vacation, to the council with their recommendation of approval. And that would conclude staff report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cataret. So if staff report is all good, that was interesting. We combined applicant and staff report into one, very efficient. Does the commission have any questions for staff before I open the public hearing? All right. Oh, there he is. Commissioner Urquilla.
How did we get this far with the reconstruction of the park before we brought this to us?
It's not an absolute necessity. The chances somebody will actually drive and say, hey, I got the right to go down this alleyway right-of-way is pretty slim, but you never know, right? So if it doesn't get approved, I don't know what we're going to do. Just not open the park, I guess.
Just freeze the ice. Oh, goodness. Any other questions before we let Mr. Cataret sit down? It's just not as much fun until we let you sit down and then call you back up. You know how this goes. Okay. Same comment as before about the public hearing. I will open the public hearing on case 20005, alley vacation, Original Town, Block 8. And if anyone from the public would like to speak on this case, please come forward to the podium. And I don't know, I really don't want to break the mouse or something here, so seeing none, was that good? I'll close the public hearing.
Chairman.
And Commissioner Wiggins.
Chairman, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve case number 20005, original town block 8 alley vacation, and approval, or recommend to approve and send to council for.
Second.
Yeah.
Right here, Eric Bowie, second.
That was a second,
Yep.
okay, thanks.
Thank you, because I was going to keep trailing on probably.
I don't know, I find the separation, it's definitely more challenging to hear and see and try to keep track of what's going on, so we will adapt. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Wiggins, second by Commissioner Bowie, to accept staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 20005, original town block 8 alley right-of-way vacation, to City Council with a recommendation of approval. That sound right? All right, is there any further discussion on this motion? And seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 9 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. I still have trouble keeping that mic. So that motion carries unanimously and takes us to our third and last case under new business this evening. Case 20011, Growth Management Plan, Annual Review and Update. And I will have to let Ms. Jardot and Mr. Cataret fight over who gets to present this case to us this evening.
Thank you, sir. You're stuck with me.
That's great.
I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but just a note, there was sort of I had seemed to have just left a sentence hanging. So page 7 was updated. Item number 4, the last sentence of that was reworded a little bit so that it was a complete sentence. So I think you guys all got a copy, but just wanted to point that out. Another item to point out is that the future land use map changed a little bit. Just updated it with some of our rezonings that have happened in the past, as well as the intent to annex area no longer includes area to the south, as we cannot serve that area with water. So, but if you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Jardot. So this case is also going to require a public hearing, and before I open the public hearing, does Commission have any pressing questions for staff? No? All right. Well, let's do this legally. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Urquia.
Yeah, sorry, Katie, on the map on 291, where the little dotted lines kind of jot out to what looks like would be on and off ramps, is that what the intent of that annexation is in the, like, for the future, or is that just, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand the intent of the little diamonds on 291.
Yes, sir. So the intent to annex area, you actually is purple, and so it is not necessarily visible where you're pointing. The dotted lines you're speaking of are just to show the on and off ramps, like you said. So apologize for the confusion.
Okay. Let me go ahead. I'll open the public hearing on case 20011, Growth Management Plan Annual Review and Update. If anyone from the public would like to speak on this case, please come forward to the podium. And seeing no one, not as good as the last one, but that was supposed to be a gavel wrap and close the public hearing. And we're back to the floor here in commission for discussion. One quick question, and I don't really mean to be nitpicky, but again, the last page of the packet there at Sunset and 58 Highway northeast corner where Compass/Pathways is rezoned to PO, I think that's still showing in yellow. So is that, which is low density residential, is that just a case of the future land use map not having caught up with reality?
I thought I had changed it to business park, so I would like to look into it a little bit further.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'm sure it'll catch up sooner or later. What I see in pink would be the tract on the very corner and Cullen Funeral Home, and it doesn't go back far enough to include compass/pathways. So if you would look at that, I'm perfectly happy. Yeah, there's always going to be some devilish detail that's out of sync, right? That's progress. Any other comments, questions about the growth management plan? I felt pretty comfortable that most everything seemed to be tracking pretty well between the plan, current development. I didn't really feel like there was anything obvious that was particularly out of whack, but I found it comforting to read staff's comments as well, and seems to support. I think we're probably looking at maybe a major rewrite of the growth management plan in the next few years, do you think?
Yes, sir, we're looking to incorporate the strategic plan and the growth management plan better than they are right now. Right now, the growth management plan does address a lot of the strategic goals from the strategic plan, but we would like to have them more integrated than just mentioning some goals. So yes, sir, we're doing that right now.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Quick question here.
Yep, Commissioner Bowie.
We, in here, it mentioned something about a traffic study or something. Are we going to be briefed on that as a body, the planning and zoning, or are we going to get whatever comes out to the public or what have you at some point when that traffic study is completed?
Actually, we'll have a presentation. We haven't gotten, we have a meeting with them tomorrow, but have not gotten the traffic study back, but we'll give a presentation when we have it finalized. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If I could interject on that, Mr. Bowie, over here. So we just got a briefing on that at the city council work session last night about the traffic study that they're wanting to get done for purposes, I think mostly for transportation purposes for our business parks and things, and because of what we potentially have going on at Van Trust. Now that is a study. Do you want to get up and explain that one, Jim, as you explained it to us last night? Because I thought that was a pretty interesting ask on that.
Yes, thank you, sir. There's actually going to be, there's two separate studies that will somewhat overlap. The study referred to in the growth management plan update is the one that we have Wilson and Company hired to do. They were initially looking at the Dean Avenue corridor and the 58 corridor, specifically as, with Van Trust coming online, with the townhomes that were recently approved at the venue, and then the whole commercial development that we anticipate to happen. The city wanted to take the initial lead on doing the study to determine kind of a baseline, what improvements need to be made. When you look at Dean Avenue, North Cass Parkway, the road alignment and the road structure is good, but as development occurs, we'll have to do turn lanes, we'll have to do signals, and so we want to have a base study done that as a developer comes in to do a new development, they will build off of the study that we have. So that's the study, and then also, again, looking at 58 Highway, basically from our city limits going east all the way, I believe, to Madison Street. Again, looking at just the undeveloped land that we have and the traffic impacts that development is having overall. Somewhat coordinated with what we're doing jointly with the City of Belton and the Cass County Commission at the interchange and widening of I-49. So we're trying to bring all these pieces together in a coordinated plan. The second traffic study that was talked about, the mayor's referring to, is a grant application we are working on with the cities of Belton and Grandview to do a more of a I-49 corridor transportation study to look at alternative methods of moving people around, connecting people within those communities, and then connecting our community with the Kansas City area. As we develop the Van Trust industrial site, as Belton develops their Southview commercial or industrial site, one of the things we hear from the prospective tenants is, we need workers, and we need more than what your communities have available to provide to us. So how do we get individuals to come to our facility to work? And so we hear that, and so we're trying to find ways to have alternate means of connecting with basically the Kansas City area. That might be shuttle, vans, and not necessarily saying a bus route, but what we're looking at is other alternative methods of getting folks here. So that study, we presented it last night to the City Council. We're going for a grant request to help share the cost of that study, but again, it's just trying to find ways how we as a community of Raymore can connect with other communities that we call the Southland and the overall Kansas City area. So a lot of planning going on, beyond the growth management plan that, but we think it's important to stay ahead of development, basically. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Carteret.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the proposed changes in the future land use map, and which is also case number 20011.
Okay, Mr. Zer, if I may, before we worry about a second, so as I remember, the growth management plan is actually owned by the Planning and Zoning Commission, so unlike the two prior cases where we were recommending to City Council, this update is actually ours to approve, is that correct?
You are correct, sir.
So was that an adequate motion?
Yes, the motion was to accept the proposed growth management plan as presented, I believe. I don't believe there was any further reference to the pushing it along to the City Council.
No, I didn't hear that. I wasn't sure we were quite there, but that's good. All right, thank you, Commissioner Urquia. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, who spoke first?
Calvin?
Commissioner Ackland? Okay,
I don't know. Who said the second at the same time? Oh, Jeremy did.
oh, good
I think
grief.
Jeremy beat me by a quarter of a second.
Okay, Commissioner Manser, we'll give you the second then. The credit or the blame as it is. All right, so we have a motion. Mr. Zer, you need to keep an eye on me here. We have a motion to accept, I think, or approve the growth management plan annual review and update. Does that sound right? By Commissioner Urquia, second by Commissioner Manser. Is there any further discussion on this motion? And if not, all those in favor raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you. 9 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Okay. Mr. Zer, do you have one or more city council reports to give us this evening?
Chairman, I'm excited to provide you with a city council report from not just one or two, but from 7 different city council meetings.
Uh-oh. Be careful what I wish for.
I'm going to control it a little bit and reference those items that may be of interest to the commission this evening. Obviously, as always, I would invite Mr. Carteret, Ms. Jardot, or Mayor Turnbow to insert any additional information they think is important for the commission to consider. And with that, I would start with the February 24th, 2020 City Council meeting. At that meeting, the City Council took into consideration the reclassification of zoning for Sunset Plaza. You all would recall this as having made a decision with regard to this on February 18th, 2020. It was approved by a vote of 7-1 at that time. It altered the zoning of the approximately 5.04 acres east of Sunset Lane from C1 Neighborhood Commercial and C2 General Commercial to the PUD Planned Unit Development, allowing for the construction of 67-unit townhomes on that location. Right after that, the City Council, the vote on that was a unanimous vote for approval of the rezoning classification. The next item was a final plat approval with regard to the same parcel of property, the Sunset Plaza final plat. It was also approved by a unanimous vote of the City Council. That was the February 24th, 2020 meeting. The next meeting that occurred was the March 9th meeting. At this meeting, the full council was present, and the only item of interest for the commission this evening would have been the second reading of the Sunset Plaza final plat, again creating the 23-lot residential subdivision proposed on the 5.04 acres that had been receiving its first approval at the prior meeting. The next meeting, and I provide this only for a historic aspect, is an agenda from March 23rd, 2020. At that meeting, the City Council voted, I think in the first time in the history of Raymore, authorizing the mayor to declare a state of emergency, and trusting the mayor to make decisions during the COVID-19 outbreak and attempting to do everything he could to help control any further spread of the same, not directly necessarily associated with the commission, but of historic value. Next City Council meeting was April 13th, 2020. I had nothing identified on that council agenda for consideration by the commission. Next meeting was April 27th, 2020. The only item of interest here was the extension of the mayor's emergency declaration power, which the council approved unanimously. I think the final one I've got for you is May 11th, 2020. At this meeting, more recent in history, has a discussion with regard to the August 4th, 2020 no tax increase GO bond election. And on that one, I would simply note that there is a proposal on your upcoming ballot for GO bond improvements within the city to the tune of approximately $23.5 million. And not advocating, but simply noting the importance of each of us that we have in voting. That would conclude the May 11th, 2020 City Council meeting. The most recent City Council meeting of June 8th, 2020, there is nothing on there that I identified that would have had an interest for the commission. Obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have and invite the input from staff and mayor as well. Thank you.
Anything to add? No? Thank you, Mr. Zer. Mr. Mayor Turnbow, sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, Jonathan is awesome.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to staff report. Mr. Carteret, Mr. Odo.
Thank you, sir. A couple of items, just wanted to let the commission know. Earlier this evening, 6 o'clock, our Board of Adjustment did have a meeting, and there was a request for a variance for a fence that would encroach a privacy fence that would encroach into a front yard area. When we have a corner lot, the corner lots have two front yards, and what some people think is their back or side yard is actually another front yard. So it does limit the ability to put a 6-foot privacy fence in that part of the yard, and the board did agree with staff's recommendation, which was to deny the request. It was a 3-2 vote, and so that variance application was denied. I do want to note upcoming meetings. We will have a meeting on July 7th of the Planning Commission. The meeting will be held in the City Council chambers. So beginning July 1st, all of our city meetings will be moved back to the City Hall building. We will have our annual review of our Unified Development Code that evening. We tentatively have something scheduled for July 21st. We don't know if that will remain on the agenda. It's unlikely that item will remain on the agenda, but we have to keep that meeting open in case another application is filed. But we do have several other. At this time, we have 2 new subdivisions looking to develop in Raymore. So they'll be new preliminary plats, something that we have not looked at, a new preliminary plat for residential subdivision in a long, long time. So it's good to see that we have individuals looking to invest in our city to do residential development. In the staff report, one of the things we provide is inventory of lots available, where someone could walk in today and pull a permit on a lot. We are currently down to 292 available lots. More than half of those are in Creekmore. So you think about, the number of lots we have spread throughout our city, it's really getting difficult for builders to find property right now to build on. So it's an issue I brought up to the council a couple of months ago. That's something we watch very closely. At one point, we had over 1,400 lots available in our city, just spread out, and that's why we saw a lot of building going on when other cities weren't seeing building. But if that inventory continues to drop down, it's going to be an issue for us to keep as a growing community. So we need to see these new subdivisions come in, and we're excited that we have 2 proposed developments that good single-family developments that will be coming in to look at our community. But the review time for those is longer, so you'll see those coming forward probably in the August timeframe.
Can you disclose where those
Uh,
are?
One of them would be 160 acres just south of Creekmore. So it would be north of Hawkridge Park, stretching all the way from basically the Creekmore neighborhood all the way to the east to Madison Street. On the south side of what would be 163rd Street if it connected all the way to Madison Street. So that's one very large subdivision that we're currently reviewing. The second one is the next phase of the Oak Ridge Farms subdivision, which is the Sean Siebert development. This is the duplex. Right now, there's duplexes behind the post office where Pine Street extends back, just north of the Point Townhomes. If you recall, when he first came in to rezone a part of the land, he talked about a future phase, a larger tract of land that he owned to the east. He's ready to move forward with that development. So it will be a continuation of his Oak Ridge Farms, but he's going to have a mixture of single-family detached, kind of on the perimeter of the property, and on the interior would be additional duplex buildings, similar to what he currently has. So currently what we're looking at, we have a third developer looking at an 80-acre tract of land they have as well. They have not filed yet, so I'll hold off on that one, but another large tract that we hope to see developed. So a lot coming up for the commission.
Job security, thank you. Commissioner Wiggins, question?
Jim, I'm sorry, before you get too far away, or maybe Mr. Ardo might be able to, just a question for city staff. Obviously, we haven't been here for 3 months. Is there, and obviously this would maybe be a Mr. Gress question, but maybe it's you all as well. Is there anything, have we had anything go on hold or stop or things that we've approved lately? Obviously, we've seen steel go up across the street, which is great. There's still land being moved. The corner where the Fast and Fresh seems to be pretty dormant. Is there any updates from anything that we would have approved in the recent history?
A couple of things are moving forward. Of course, you all see the Compass Health facility, so they've stayed on track with their new facility. The Westgate Drive, the relocated Kentucky Road, they'll actually start on that any day now as far as moving dirt. They finally have all the permits and approvals they needed for that project. So that's a city funded under our no tax increase general obligation bond project. That's the last one from the 2017 list. So we're excited to see that go through. Also, as part of that, the block developers are going to be doing a little work to the land that would be to the east of what was Belfonte's Car Wash. So it'll be good to see them getting those sites even a little bit more ready. They have one tenant lined up for that property. The Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh is on hold simply because they, with the COVID-19, it kind of affected their overall strategy on what they were doing with their stores. So they're having to go into a lot of their existing stores now and changing their product, how they are marketing their product and displaying their product. So they're working on rehabbing some of their existing older convenience store areas before they venture into building the new facilities. They own the property. They intend to move forward. They won't give us a date yet. We're hoping they'll start moving dirt by in the fall of this year. That was the last discussions we had, but unfortunately, the COVID-19 really pushed them back as far as their expansion. I do know, talking with the developer of the venue project, the townhome project down at the North Cass Parkway, he'll be moving forward with that. He's going through final design for his project. Of course, they're working on the Dean Avenue extension already for the Van Trust project, which is moving forward. We've been working on a major tenant for the site that we're one of the finalists in the nation for that facility. So we're hoping to hear word on that by early July. Regardless of that decision, if they decide not to locate it anymore, Van Trust is moving forward with their first building. So that's why you see the work going on at this point. So that's exciting to see that they're looking to invest in a facility down there. Of course, the loft apartments moving forward. Sunset Plaza, the townhome, the fourplex buildings that were approved for the Conway property, though there is a lien on the property that doesn't go away until March, I believe, of 2021. So they're waiting to develop that, to purchase that property until that lien dissolves itself. So it's really limited their ability to start on that, which is why he's focusing on the Oak Ridge Farms development. Same developer, different product types. So we hope to see that move forward. It's just going to be 2021 project.
Thank you.
Helps if I turn it back on. Thank you, Mr. Ketteret. All right. I will open the floor for public comment. Once more, and seeing none, we will move on to commission member comment. And I think Commissioner Bowie, since I think I'll just try to keep it simple and go around the room there. If you'd like to start this evening, please.
No row comment. Thank you, everybody, for the updates. Appreciate it. And nothing else.
No, thank
Good to be
you.
back.
Commissioner Mansur?
I'd like to thank the mayor, the city council for appointing me to this commission. I look forward to serving until at least October. Thank you, Katie and Jim, for briefing me and helping me, and I'm glad I can be here.
Welcome aboard. Commissioner Peterman?
I don't have anything tonight.
All right. And I probably should have said Secretary Peterman, thank you very much for filling that very important job. Commissioner Wiggins?
Glad to see everybody again. Jim, I know I mentioned it earlier, but thank you for our communication over some stuff, traffic safety things that you guys have addressed. So I really appreciate that. I know people in my neighborhood greatly appreciate that. Just a comment to Vice Chair Fizer. Obviously the comments were made during the public thing, but I think we kind of made a statement earlier and can't speak on behalf of everybody, but I don't tend to forget things and what I was told tonight, so hopefully that helps ease any of your concerns, but obviously I'm just one additional voice, but what I was told tonight, I will remember that as well. So everybody have a wonderful rest of the week, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
Yeah. Vice Chair Fizer?
Well, it's really great to see everybody. I haven't been in a room with this many people since early March, I think. I've been working from upstairs in my house every day for months, and seems like forever. So it's really great to be here again, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Wiggins. I like to listen to what everybody says. I just wasn't quite sold, but it's like I don't think it's a bad thing. I just want to say it's great to see everybody, and keep your masks.
Thank you. Commissioner Ackland?
I just want to say thank you. I don't have a lot of comments. I want to thank you, though, but for keeping, just this information is very helpful to me, and particularly the management plan. I like to see that. It's just encouraging to see where we're going. My grandkids talked me into going to the park the other day. First time I've been out to a park since we in months, and they seem to enjoy it. I think what's the one, Memorial Park, where they got did some changes or things like that, so they really enjoy that, so thank you.
Commissioner Urquia.
Yeah, I'll echo Commissioner Wiggins, and nice to see everybody again. It's been a while. As always, appreciate everything the city's doing and the fact that you guys have kept things kind of moving along despite not getting to deal with us for the last few months. It's nice to hear that things are still kind of moving along on some of the key projects and, you know, the ones that aren't, understandably so. And also, I'll say Happy Father's Day to all the dads and grandfathers out there. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Turnbow.
Yeah, I want to say I'm sorry I missed your report, Jonathan. If you covered this, I apologize. I was looking at my grandson's double that my son sent to me, a clip of that. But last night was an exciting evening. Melissa Harmer, our communications director, she put together a very nice piece of material that we're going to be putting out. Actually, it's on our website now if you want to take a look at it. But it's talking about the $23 million general obligation bond issue that's going to be on the August ballot. A lot of great things going to happen here in the city. Much of it, 17 million of it going to infrastructure. The remaining nearly 6 million is going to parks and rec for the expansion of the RAC and several other things that we've got planned, or that they've got planned. And we're just really excited about all of the great things that we're going to have on the ballot for us to take a look at and vote on. There'll be two separate issues, questions 1 and 2. One will be the infrastructure. Question 2 will be the parks improvements. Not that you could improve upon them, but we can, I guess. They're great right now. We're very proud of them, but we're going to even make it better. So if you avail yourselves of that, you get a chance to take a look at it. It's pretty nice things coming forward. And then I want to welcome everybody back. Hopefully this is the only meeting we have to have here. I think we're going to transition back over to City Hall here in the next week or two. We'll have probably one more council meeting here, and then I think we're going to try to transition back over to City Hall. So, but this has worked out really nice. The IT people worked very hard here in City Hall to get this set up for us. We are broadcasting live tonight, so so that people in the community can join us just like they do for our work sessions and council meetings. A very talented crew that worked very hard, not just the IT department, but everybody at City Hall worked very hard through the COVID-19 pandemic. The major part of it where City Hall was closed, you wouldn't have noticed it if you'd had access to City Hall. A lot of busy people doing a lot of great work there at City Hall. I'm very proud to be a part of that. I tried to stay out from underfoot most of the time, but every once in a while they make me come up there and sign stuff. So I'm really proud of them. I'm proud of you all to continue to volunteer and assist in this effort. So thank you. And again, it's great seeing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Turnbow. I have 3 items. I'll try to keep them fairly short. 2 will be. First, I wanted to thank staff for setting up Harrelson Room here at Centerview this evening, and it sounds like I need to make that thank you a lot more broad to take in the IT people and everybody that helped. Sounds like this was not just a trivial project, so thank you for your support as always. Second, I wanted to thank commissioners. It's great to see everyone here this evening, and since we've been down for about 3 months, that wasn't necessarily a given that everybody was going to remember. I had to keep reminding myself. So it's good to see you all, and thank you for your continuing support. My third item, I will give this article to staff for the record, and it's from the Kansas City Star, Wednesday, June 3rd, page 6A. The headline reads, "Prairie Village could allow residents to raise chickens." And of course, as people that stay tuned to Planning and Zoning Commission and probably City Council know well, urban chickens are kind of a thing. They have their ups and downs, but they never, the idea never really goes away. So I'm not going to read. This is pretty much an 8.5 by 11 page article, but it wasn't a done deal. I had to read it more carefully. Prairie Village City Council instructed staff to draft an amendment to the city's animal code. So it was still at the planning stage, not at the stage of having been accepted. But to me, it was yet another data point in more and more cities in the metro area allowing urban chickens. And what I particularly would like staff to look at in this article, if you have not already seen it, it doesn't have the ordinance, but it talks about the proposed ordinance, and it seems, from reading the Star, it seems to be a fairly straightforward, fairly simple ordinance. And the last attempt to allow urban chickens here, as I recall, struck me as, wow, you all worked very, very hard, but it was a very complicated, cumbersome ordinance to me, which was one of the things that worked against it. So I'll give you this article for the record. I'd also note, watching the Ellen Show, because I've been home a lot more than I would have been used to, but watching the Ellen Show, she had Jennifer Garner on there, and Jennifer Garner was talking about her chickens and laying more eggs than they could use and giving them away to the neighbors. And finally, going back, but since we haven't had a meeting for 3 months, I believe it was around April 5th, Ms. Jardot, Mr. Cataret, maybe you'll remember this as well. I think staff forwarded an email from Filer Family Farms up on North Madison, and their agricultural, which of course having chickens not a problem, but from Mr. Filer, it was I thought it was a very lucid, sensible email letter, basically acknowledging that with COVID and with hiccups in the food supply and all that he was seeing a lot more demand. And so I just wanted to, Commissioner Mansur, I'm not sure that I guess maybe you'll remember, were you on the mailing list for that email as well? And it's been a couple of months ago, so I wanted to add that on the topic, and I think that's probably enough urban chickens for this evening, but I look forward to discussing that further when we do our annual review of the Unified Development Ordinance, right? Sound right? Good, thank you. Okay, that's all I had. Does anyone else have any more comments before we adjourn the meeting?
I just have one comment.
Commissioner Ackland?
Saturday, June the 20th is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Saturday, June 20th. Wow, that's coming up quick. All right. Yeah. Okay, well, unless anyone else has anything else to add, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Wiggins, and a second.
Second.
Okay. So motion by Commissioner Wiggins, second by Commissioner Ackland to adjourn. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 2, 3, 4, and I've got 9 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Thank you all very much.